Rei is a loser boy who is trained by the strongest ice mage to win the war. However, when they are about to lose, he unlocks his hidden powers to eradicate everyone. Now he is forced to disguise as a normal student to hide from his enemies, but when he accidentally reveals his true identity, all the chicks of the school start drooling for him, wanting to have a taste of the war hero sausage. When he was only 5 years old, Rei lost his parents in the ongoing war, where he was found by Lydia, the strongest ice mages of the country. She took Rei to her army camp, where they tended to his injuries. When he finally regained consciousness, Rei grew fond of Lydia, who decided to adopt him as her apprentice and train him to become the next Iceblade sorcerer after her death. He's trained in the sword by another strong warrior named Howard, who loved his comrades more than anything. Years later, Rei uses his ice magic to eliminate the kingdom's enemies, making everyone shocked by his abilities. However, both Lydia and Howard got wounded. Rei does everything he can to save Howard, but the warrior gets unalived in front of his eyes, while Lydia becomes partially paralyzed for the rest of her life. This traumatic experience erupted a nasty power outage from Rei's body, causing a massive ice blast. A decade after the catastrophic war, Rei arrives at the prestigious Sorcery Academy. This institution was previously reserved exclusively for the noble elite. However, Rei is the very first ordinary commoner to ever be admitted. As he makes his way onto the grand campus, a girl with an impressive chest named Wanda stumbles and nearly falls. But this Japanese simp reacts with practice speed and catches her before she hits the ground. He politely apologizes to her and explains that it's his first day. However, when her friends identify him as the infamous transfer student from an ordinary household, her gratitude evaporates. The mere thought of being touched by a commoner sends her into a state of shock, and she promptly faints. Before Rei can process this bizarre reaction, an arrogant young noble named Albert, accompanied by his cronies, steps forward to confront him. Albert wastes no time insulting Rei for his commoner status, and even questions how someone so lowly could possibly belong in their esteemed academy. He lunges to grab Rei by the collar, but this simp sidesteps the clumsy attack with elegance, shocking all the students around him. Just as the situation threatens to escalate, a commanding voice cuts through the tension. A red-haired girl with an extraordinary set of munchkins, Amelia Rose, intervenes. She happens to be the daughter of the most powerful of the three great noble houses, and her presence alone is enough to silence the onlookers. She scolds Albert for being a beta male, declaring that anyone capable of passing the entrance exam has earned their place at the academy, regardless of their lineage. Humbled by this stupid little rant, Albert and his followers retreat. Later on, Rei thanks Amelia for her help, and the two introduce themselves. A couple hours later, in their first class, Rei takes his seat as the teacher. Miss Gray begins her lecture. She outlines the world's system of sorcery, explaining the 5 ranks: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and the ultimate rank of grand. She clarifies that the title of grand is held by only 7 living sorcerers in this world. Miss Gray also speaks of the heroes of the Great War, particularly the most powerful of them all, the Iceblade sorcerer, who single-handedly defeated an entire continent before mysteriously vanishing. Unable to contain his stupid monkey mind, Albert once again disrupts the class and demands to know why a commoner is present in a school that aims to produce grand sorcerers. However, Miss Gray politely explains to him that a sorcerer's worth is measured by skill, not their bloodline, and only those who pass the exam are permitted to attend this academy. For their first practical exercise, Miss Gray explains the fundamental categories of matter. She demonstrates her mastery by manifesting a beautiful bouquet of crystal roses from thin air like a proper G. Magic. She then gives the students an extraordinary task to replicate the magic. Amelia, who is a gifted sorcerer, effortlessly manifests a perfect ice rose like her teacher. However, when it's Rei's turn, he deliberately restrains his immense power and produces nothing more than a tiny pathetic ice cube. Seeing this, the entire class erupts in laughter, and Albert glares at him with fuming hatred. This shenanigan convinced him even more that Rei is nothing but a worthless fraud. After class, Rei heads to the library to hide his little pee-pee, where he spots a quiet, nerdy girl from his class. He approaches the girl and immediately notices her interest in the theoretical works of a famous researcher named Dr. Ainsworth. Rei introduces himself as a worthless loser, and the girl, Elisa Griffith, shyly returns the gesture. As the two start talking, Rei expresses his own deep admiration for Dr. Ainsworth's theories, creating an instant bond between them. He notices how Elisa constantly hides her head under a large hat, and gently asks why she wants to look like Dumbledore. Feeling slightly comfortable around him, Elisa confides that she's a half-elf, and has always been bothered by her friends for her pointed ears. However, being the simp he is, Rei finds them beautiful and tells her it's extremely hot. Hearing this half-genuine compliment, Elisa lets out a small flustered smile to her face. Later, returning to his dorm room, Rei finds his new roommate waiting for him. The boy introduces himself as Evie Armstrong, a muscular and cheerful kid from a noble family. He immediately declares that he doesn't care about social status and that he is a feminist.
Why are you gay?
Evie believes in the universal language of muscles, not titles. As they shake hands, the firmness of their grips makes both the kid realize that they share a similar foundation of intense physical training. In an extremely weird show of friendship, the two take off their shirts to compare their chiseled physiques. Within seconds, the boys instantly term themselves as stupid muscle bros. The following morning, Rei is on his morning jog when he crosses paths with a third-year student named Rebecca Bradley. The wind from his run nearly lifts her skirt, and he quickly circles back to apologize to his pretty-breasted chick. Surprisingly, the girl is more impressed with him than she is offended. Rebecca cannot seem to control her hormones, seeing Rei's speed and stamina. With this spontaneous meeting, the two officially introduce themselves. Later, while heading to the principal's office, Rei collides with yet another girl with a quirky personality and a stupid little pigtail. She introduces herself as Clarice Cleveland, who also happens to come from a noble family. She boasts about her family name, but before Rei can give a flying frog about her title, Clarice remembers an urgent task at hand and leaves the scene. Finally, Rei arrives at the principal's office for a meeting with Abby Garnett. It turns out to be a reunion of sorts rather than a formal introduction. Abby was his former colonel in the military. She expresses her hope that he can finally experience the peaceful, normal life of a student, a life Rei was denied during during the war. Now they find themselves in swordsmanship practice because that's what happens in an anime. To no one's surprise, Albert challenges Ray to a sparring match, eager to publicly humiliate the ordinary kid from nowhere. With this, the duel begins, and Albert swings his wooden sword with full force and channels all his anger and frustration. However, Ray has years of brutal training under his master, Howard, and he remains perfectly calm. With minimal effort, he deflects Albert's stupid little childish blows with movements smoother than Ariana Grande's forehead. Enraged by this, Albert lunges forward for a final powerful thrust. In that split second, Ray counters with an attack of his own. He strikes Albert's wooden sword at its weakest point with precision and shatters the blade in an instant. The sound of splintering wood echoes through the training hall as Albert collapses to his knees in disbelief. From a distance, Principal Abby watches the scene unfold with a faint smile on her lips. She is glad to see that the legendary Ice Blade sorcerer was beginning to find his place in the real world. Back in their dorm room, Ray and his roommate engage in an intense physical workout. It just seems like they're competing to see who's more gay, in a good sense, of course. Moments later, after a vigorous training session fueled by mutual respect, Evie Armstrong asks Ray what the frog he is doing in this academy. While stretching his hamstrings, Ray reveals his plan to join not one, but two different clubs. Evie finds this task nearly impossible given the demands of the academy. However, Ray simply smiles at him, hinting that he has a unique approach to getting what he wants. His first stop is the Environmental Research Club, and he barges in like an alcoholic father. The room resembles an iron dungeon more than a student lounge. The space is filled with hulking, muscular men, all clad only in their underwear. With their protein-induced egos, the guys immediately eye Ray's ordinary physique. Evie, who is already a member of this research club, watches the scene unfold as the club's leader questions why someone so scrawny would dare to join their ranks. In response to their challenge to prove his worth, Ray removes his uniform unannounced. Immediately the room falls silent as he reveals a perfectly sculpted figure that rivals even their own. The men stare at this ordinary little frog in disbelief, while one of the guys even claims that he is on steroids. To solidify his claim, Ray presents a Gold Hunter license. It turns out that this license is a rare and prestigious card that proves he is one of the most capable individuals alive, having trained in the treacherous backwoods forests. At this point, his credentials and his physique are undeniable, so the leader extends a hand and welcomes him into their brotherhood of muscles. With this, the entire room erupts in an unnecessarily stupid cheer. This chaotic sound makes it clear that this club is less about research and more about being an asylum for insane people. Having secured his place among the Titans, Ray makes his way to his second target, the gardening club. The atmosphere here is a complete contrast. The headquarters is a refined, quiet room where a group of girls, led by the gentle third-year student Rebecca Bradley, who sips tea like a grandmother. Ray politely states his interest in joining the club. He explains that even on the most brutal battlefields of the war, he always found the sight of a single flower extremely soothing to his stupid eyes. Rebecca thinks he just wants to get into her pants and hesitates for a while. But just then, one of her friends, a sharp-tongued girl named Dina, immediately stands up in protest. She openly accuses Ray of having ulterior motives, claiming he's only joining to get closer to Rebecca, who is a noble girl from one of the great families. Respecting her friend's concerns, Rebecca allows Dina to orchestrate an exam to evaluate Ray's sincerity. So Dina leads him to the barren, weed-infested rooftop terrace and issues an ultimatum. She asks Ray to transform this wasteland into a beautiful flower garden within 1 week. It's a monumental task designed for failure, but Ray needs to get into those pants, so he gets to work immediately. On the first day, he single-handedly clears the entire roof of weeds. On the second day, he meticulously plows and works on the soil's texture and prepares it for planting. By the third day, Ray is already laying down cement canals and brick walls to create structured plots for different flower types. During his labor, Rebecca visits him with a strawberry cream pie with gravy dripping under her skirt as a reward for his progress. She mentions that as the student council president, she was able to negotiate with the school to have them. Ray admires her ability to convince the school overlords, but the girl gets distracted and finds herself captivated by the sight of his powerful arms, which are glistening with sweat from his work. Gathering her courage, Rebecca asks if she can touch his muscles, and Ray obviously doesn't deny. She is amazed by their size and hardness, but this entire exchange is being watched by a jealous Amelia Rose from a window in a nearby building. On the fourth day, the garden is finally complete. Dana is stunned seeing this, and now she has no choice but to admit that Ray has passed the exam. With this, Rebecca officially welcomes Ray as the newest member of their stupid gardening club. A few days later, Miss Gray announces that the class will be undertaking a practical survival exercise in a dangerous forest in the hills. As preparation, the students are instructed to form parties of 4. As the nobles quickly group up, Ray finds himself alone since he is a stupid little outsider. However, this awkwardness is broken by Principal Abby. She quietly warns him that a spy from an enemy nation may have infiltrated the student body and urges him to be vigilant. Just as Ray is pondering the gravity of this situation, Evie claps him on the back and declares himself as the first member of Ray's party. Looking for more members, Ray approaches the timid Elisa, but she immediately declines his offer. She claims that she would be a burden, but when Ray compliments her for her abilities, she breaks through her insecurity. Finally, Elisa agrees to join Ray's group along with Evie. Just then, their party of 3 is approached by an unexpected applicant, Amelia Rose. To the shock of the entire class, the most esteemed noble in their year asks if there is an opening in the ordinaries group. With an erect sausage, Ray invites her to his group, causing Albert and his goons to see the in anger. The next day, the teams assemble at the edge of the forest. Their objective is to navigate to the center within 24 hours, collecting as many stamps as possible from the monsters hidden within. As the exercise begins, Ray's party sprints into the dense woods. With his extensive survival knowledge, Ray effortlessly guides them. However, a few hours later, their journey is interrupted when a giant bee-like monster ambushes them. For some reason, its stinger is aimed directly at Elisa's head. Before anyone can react, Ray flashes forward with his wooden sword and splits the creature in 2 with a single strike. This display of of power leaves his teammates speechless as he calmly retrieves their first stamp from the monster's remains. That night, as they set up camp, Amelia questions him about his incredible swordsmanship and survival skills. She finds it hard to believe he learned it all in the backwoods forests, while the two are talking about some useless things. The next day, after defeating a monster, a shadowy figure is seen lurking in the distance. He then casts a magic spell on a knife and throws it directly at the dead monster. Within seconds, it is filled with some weird magical energy, and it tries to stand up on its feet. Everybody nearby is shocked to see this, and this red-haired chick does her usual routine and starts getting paranoid. Suddenly, the monster opens its mouth to devour the kid that attacked it, while Ray simply looks at it, wondering if this is Diddy's final form. With the monster now completely resurrected, it lets out a roar that shakes the forest to its core. Its size and evil aura do not quite match its cute appearance, but Ray does not fall for this stupidity. Hidden nearby, Clarice Cleveland curiously peeks from behind a tree, which quickly turns to terror as she witnesses a creature far beyond anything recorded in her textbooks. However, the fearless Ray charges forward, as his sword clashes against the beast's hardened exoskeleton. Immediately, he's thrown back, as his attack does not even leave a single scratch. He realizes this is no ordinary monster, because evolution after death only happened in Naruto, which is a clear sign of sinister magic at play. Suddenly, the beast retaliates with a swipe of its razor-sharp claws. Ray manages to deflect the blow, but the impact sends a shockwave up his arm. He prepares to unleash a sliver of his true ice magic, but before he can act, a wall of brilliant flame erupts from the ground, forcing the monster to recoil. It turns out to be this Amelia chick, who came as a reinforcement. Seizing the opening, she commands Evie, who with a powerful roar of his own, lifts a massive boulder and hurls it toward the creature. Before the beast can recover, Ray is on its tail. He plunges his blade deep into a joint in the monster's armor. He wrenches the blade sideways, slicing the monster clean in half. In just a few seconds, the monster collapses in a heap, while its dark energy dissipates into the air. With the immediate threat neutralized, Albert's cronies, along with Clarice, emerge from their hiding spots and join Ray's group. At this point, all the nobles are gathered together with an ordinary person, united by a shared enemy. This triggers a nostalgic pang in Ray's heart, reminding him of the friendship of his old military unit. From the shadows, the mysterious spy who resurrected the monster watches the scene. The man realizes that this Ray dude is not an ordinary student. With this, the spy vanishes like a hot girl in a public bus. Within a few hours, the newly formed group easily reaches the final checkpoint of the exercise. After securing the last stamp, the tension finally breaks. Amelia, finally feeling relieved, unnecessarily tackles Elisa like a total idiot, while Evie proudly declares that his backwoods forest training makes him strong enough to carry them all. When the results are announced back at the academy, their group is declared the decisive winner. But as Clarice cheers for their victory, Ray notices the cold, resentful stares from the other students. It turns out that the nobles are furious that an ordinary student has not only completed the challenge, but has surpassed them all. A few days later, Ray takes a break from the academy to visit his master. He arrives at a secluded mansion where he is greeted by a beautiful maid named Carla. Inside, Lydia Ainsworth, the legendary sorcerer who raised him, is waiting for the kid in her wheelchair like Stephen Hawking. Though she playfully scolds him for not visiting sooner, her relief at seeing him is clearly visible. During their conversation over tea, Lydia's tone turns serious. She warns Ray about a dangerous organization known as eugenics, a group of rogue researchers who abduct sorcerers to dissect their brains in search of hidden magical potential. She suspects they may try to recruit or capture him, and she gives him a stern order. Lydia asks the kid to never release the Chronos lock under any circumstances. She explains that this lock seals his true power unless his life is in mortal danger. Later, as they take a walk through the woods, Lydia asks if he's made any friends. Ray simply smiles at this question, describing his new companions as the greatest group of deranged morons. Lydia is pleased to see a genuine smile on his face and asks him to bring them over for a visit sometime. However, her mood shifts again as she brings up the upcoming Magic Chevalier, the prestigious sword fighting tournament. Having won it 4 times herself, she encourages him to enter. Ray respectfully declines the offer because he wants to maintain a low profile and support his friends from the sidelines. As a parting gift, Lydia retrieves a book from within her steamy, creamy blouse, a specialized training manual she adapted specifically for him. Ray calls her melons a tanker for dairy products, and for a moment the stern master melts away, replaced by a woman who basks in her students' praise. The next day, Ray is on his morning run when he sprints past Elisa, who is on her way to the library with a heavy bag of books. Seeing an opportunity to slide his hands inside her skirt, he stops and offers to accompany her. The simple gesture overwhelms the shy girl. Inside the library, Ray helps her find more research material. While he goes through the book Lydia gave him, he discovers that the book is less of a training manual and more of a ridiculously cheesy book of pickup lines. Despite this, he decides to test a few lines on Elisa as they leave, which seems to make her awkward and shy at the same time. However, their stupid little moment is interrupted by Clarice, who had been spying on them from behind a pillar. Seeing her, Ray casually invites her to lunch. Even though the girl misinterprets this as a date, Ray channels the book's Giga Chad energy and simply declares his intention to sniff her belly button that night. At lunch, the three of them bond, with Ray showering both girls with a series of absurd and effective compliments. After they part ways, he runs into Amelia, who is elegantly dressed after attending a formal noble event. She immediately starts venting about her frustrations regarding the stupid obligations of her noble status. Ray patiently listens to her ramblings and tells her that a chest as heavy and massive as hers shouldn't have to carry such burdens. His bizarre compliment makes Amelia blush. Jealous that he spent the day with Elisha and Clarice, she impulsively commands him to accompany her on a shopping trip to the mall. Once there, she tries on various outfits, and Ray, Ray, armed with his book of pickup lines, delivers a barrage of over-the-top praise. The girl asks why he's so comfortable around women, and Ray admits he grew up surrounded by them. The warmth of his presence and his easygoing nature make Amelia wonder if, one day, she might be able to share her own secrets with him. While Ray is making friends and enjoying his day off, a different scene unfolds deep in the forest. Consumed by rage and humiliation from his constant defeats, Albert unleashes his fire magic recklessly. Flames engulf the trees around him as he screams Ray's name into the sky and vows to unalive him. Meanwhile, the same shadowy figure is lurking behind a tree, watching Albert lose his mind. The next day, Ray joins the Environmental Research Club for their morning stretches. But the session looks more like a gathering of demigods preparing for war. With their leader absent, Evie is in charge, and the energy in the room is like Diddy's castle. After the intense workout, Ray makes his way to the gardening club. Dana, now fully convinced of his good intentions, hands him a key to the club room. Assuming the room is empty, Ray unlocks the door and walks in, only to stop dead in his tracks. Rebecca Bradley is standing in the middle of the room, clad only in her underwear. The girl turns red in embarrassment, while Ray can only manage a quick apology. He then leaves the room and tries to control the blood supply to his sausage.
What do you mean by that?
A few moments later, a fully dressed Rebecca invites him back in, but she is equally embarrassed. She serves him tea and pleads with him to forget what he saw. The girl also adds that she normally wears grown-up undergarments. Trying to move on from this conversation, she leads him to the rooftop garden they've been cultivating. Rebecca points out the various flowers she wants to plant, and enthusiastically shows him a few carnivorous specimens. As they chat, she admits that she's glad Ray joined the club because, as a girl from a noble family, other students are too intimidated to approach her. Since Ray is an ordinary, stupid, little disgusting boy, he is the first person she can talk to normally. For a moment, it felt like her sincere confession strengthened the bond between them. The next day, the Academy holds its qualifying matches for the Magic Chevalier tournament. The rules are simple: if you win, you're in, but if you lose, you're a Kai Cenat fan. Amelia Rose is the first to compete, and her match is a masterclass in efficiency because it's over in a few seconds. With just a single strike, she sends her opponent's sword flying and secures her victory. But instead of leaving, Amelia turns and declares another challenge that silences the crowd. She wants to fight this little Simpere White. As expected, Ray accepts the duel without hesitation and steps into the ring. The duel starts with Amelia on the immediate offensive, and she unleashes a flurry of swift but incredibly feminine attacks. Ray stands his ground using his wooden sword to form a perfect defense. He manages to block and redirect her every move effortlessly. Ray notes her incredible speed, but he can also feel the lack of hardcore intent behind her strikes. Just then, the familiar rhythm of combat triggers a deep-seated memory of training with his adoptive father, Howard. However, the flashback sharpens his instincts. In a split second, he deflects her sword, creates an opening, and counters with overwhelming power. But just as his sword is about to connect, Ray stops it a mere inch from her chest, deliberately dropping his own weapon and conceding the match. Seeing this, the entire arena is dumbfounded. The instructor declares Amelia the winner, but she's more confused than triumphant, and demands to know why he threw the fight away. Being the swagger he is, Ray offers no clear answer. The mystery of who he is only deepens. Later, their lunch is interrupted by the even more bitter Albert. Still fuming from his prior defeats, he slams his fists on their table and challenges Ray to a no-holds-barred duel. Feeling a sense of pity, Ray calmly accepts the fight. For this battle, they relocate to a clearing by the forest, where Clarice notes a magical barrier has sealed them off from the outside world. Albert tosses a real steel sword at Ray's feet, making it clear that this isn't a spar, it's a death match. Without warning, Albert lunges at Ray, but he easily dodges and picks up the blade. Screaming in rage, Albert unleashes a torrent of fireballs. However, Ray moves like Michael Jackson on stage and deflects some of his attacks, while slashing others in half. Frustrated by his inability to land a hit, Albert escalates the pressure and summons a massive flaming dragon that roars toward Ray. Even then, Ray splits the magical power with a single slice and instantly extinguishes it. After being defeated literally and spiritually, Albert collapses to his knees and starts to cry like Andrew Tate's girlfriend. Just as Amelia starts to question Ray about his impossible skills, a crushing gravitational force slams down on the battlefield. Everyone except Ray is pinned to the ground, and they all gasp for air. Just then, a hooded figure emerges from the trees and announces that they will all be sacrificed for the sake of its research. The figure then pulls back its hood, revealing the face of their professor, Miss Gray. Seeing this, Ray's mind starts racing, and he immediately starts connecting the dots. The evolved monster in the forest, the strange events, everything was orchestrated by Miss Gray. It is revealed that she's a member of eugenics, the twisted research group Lydia warned him about earlier. Gray seems impressed by his logic, but she still tells him that his armpits smell like onions. Knowing he's a close-range fighter, Gray summons twin serpents of fire to keep him at bay. He manages to evade their attacks, but Gray quickly grows tired of the chase and cruelly redirects the fiery snakes toward his immobilized friends. While everything feels lost, Lydia's final warning rings in his ears about knowing when to make the call. So at that point, Ray stops dodging the attacks. With a silent apology to his master, he unleashes the seal. Immediately, an explosion of frosty power erupts from him as he releases the Chronos Lock. A towering wall of ice shoots up from the ground and intercepts the flames just inches from his friends. His hair flashes white and the air around him is filled with dozens of icicles. Gray stares in utter disbelief as she recognizes the legendary power. She recalls that the Iceblade sorcerer was supposed to have vanished after the war. However, Ray informs her with a calm voice that the title had been passed down. In a moment of desperation, Miss Gray hurls a massive fireball, which Ray shatters with a single ice blade. She then summons her most powerful spell, a dragon forged from causality itself. But Ray whispers a magical phrase and invokes the forbidden anti-material code. This causes the dragon to vanish like a fart in a storm. Terrified by magic that shouldn't exist, Gray tries to run away, but Ray's ice blades shoot forward and pierce her leg. pinning her to the ground like in 50 Shades of Grey. She starts begging the little kid to keep her alive, but suddenly, she makes one last treacherous move. Miss Grey conjures an explosion of fire from beneath him, but even this attack has no effect on him. Realizing she's facing an entity beyond her comprehension, she rips a pendant from her neck. It's not a jewel, but a syringe filled with a dark fluid. With an evil glint in her eyes, she activates the dark triad system and plunges the needle directly into her own brain like Rick from Rick and Morty. The dark fluid from the syringe triggers a grotesque transformation, warping Miss Grey's body into a monstrous demonic creature. Just then, the magical barrier she had cast over the clearing dissolves, freeing Rey's friends from the crushing gravity. They scramble to their feet just in time to see Rey leap and clash with the monster that was once their teacher, throwing her back to the ground. She recovers instantly and unleashes a barrage of fire blasts. Rey meets the attack with a calm focus, as his ice blades materialize to block each attack with ease. Miss Grey grows increasingly frustrated, realizing she cannot land a single hit. At that point, Rey explains the nature of his power, revealing that his ice blade sorcery allows him to utilize deceleration, which slows down her attacks significantly. Combined with his mastery of the forbidden antimaterial code, he can reverse the very theory of magic. With this, Rey can revert her spells to their primal, harmless state. Infuriated by this impossible ability, she gathers her remaining energy and launches a giant condensed fireball. Rey simply activates lock registration, a technique that analyzes and dismantles the spell's structure, causing the massive fireball to disperse into nothingness like urine in an ocean. In a final desperate act, Grey awakens a mind infiltration sorcery, sending a swarm of dark energy hands clawing through the air toward him. Rey counters with a volley of his own ice blades, shattering the shadowy attacks. However, the continuous use of his unsealed power is pushing his body past its limits. A creeping frost begins to spread across his skin like the Night King, a visible sign that he is starting to overheat. Meanwhile, Amelia and the others watch from the sidelines, as they notice their piece of meat is slowly freezing himself. At that moment, Grey senses his instability. She sees the ice consuming him, the blood trickling from his nose, and realizes he is no longer in full control of his power. Seeing an opportunity to crush him, Miss Grey lunges forward with all her might in a single massive attack. Rey raises his blade to defend, but the impact is extremely powerful, and his ice sword shatters into 1,000 glittering fragments. As Amelia looks on in horror, Rey closes in for the final blow to unalive this kid once and for all. But the battle isn't over. Rey cleverly activates one of his powers called Ice Bloom Profusion, and controls the shattered ice particles floating in the air. Immediately, the fragments combine into a swirling, freezing tornado. This deadly blizzard engulfs Miss Grey completely, and when the storm subsides, she is covered within a massive cone of solid ice and even decorated with beautiful frozen roses. Rey has officially won the fight. However, the immense strain from the battle causes Rey to collapse to his knees, begging for some head from the girls. His body also returns to its normal state as he forces himself to reactivate the Chronos lock, sealing his power away before he loses consciousness. But before he drifts off, he is relieved to know that all his friends are safe. But in the darkness of his mind, an old memory resurfaces. Howard, his adoptive father, tells him to keep on living and promises to watch over him. Moments later, Rey awakens in the school infirmary to find Lydia looking down at him with a relieved expression. His first instinct is to apologize for breaking his promise and releasing the lock. However, Lydia is not angry at him. Instead, she places a hand on Rey's head and signals to him that she is proud of him. Lydia tells him that he used his power for the right reason, to protect those he cares about. While Rey listens to her stupid Japanese ramblings, Lydia hopes one day he will heal from the war's trauma and no longer need the seal at all. Just then, Abby arrives with her milk container to inform him that his friends are all safe and that they are recovering from a magical energy deficiency. As Lydia leaves with her maid Carla, the maid quietly lets Rey know just how deeply worried his master had been. Left alone with Abby, she confesses that she was initially against his enrolling at the academy, fearing he wasn't ready to be back into the real world. However, it was Lydia's juicy airbags who had fiercely advocated for him, begging her to give Rey a chance at a normal, happy life. After Abby leaves, the door bursts open and his friends pour in. Seeing their concerned faces, Rey decides the time for secrets is over. He apologizes like PewDiePie for deceiving them and reveals his true identity. He is one of the 7 Grand Sorcerers, the legendary Iceblade Sorcerer. Rey recounts the final battle of the war, where he lost control of his power and overheated, freezing the entire battlefield into a barren wasteland. Lydia had managed to stop him just before his own life force was consumed, binding his power with the Chronos lock. He explains that his magic seems weak only because it is sealed away. As everyone listens, Rey concludes by saying his hands are stained with blood, and he wonders if he even has the right to be their friend. However, his fears are immediately swept away by their unwavering support. Amelia takes his hand and assures him that his past does not matter because they believe in the kind, gentle person he is now. The muscular Evie loudly declares that no history could change his opinion of his muscle daddy. Elisa and Clarice also share the same sentiment, promising their friendship is unconditional. Overwhelmed with emotion, Amelia hugs him tightly, vowing that he will never be alone again. With this, the painful memories of his fallen comrades are soothed by the support of his new friends. Later that night, a strange figure slips into his room. It is revealed to be the evil Albert Elayam. However, Rey is wide awake and waiting for this, as he watches a humbled Albert apologizing for everything he has done. Without a second thought, Rey forgives him, because he believes that admitting one's mistakes takes true strength. This simple act of forgiveness helps Albert realize that his hatred was a weakness, not a strength. An extremely wacko logic, by the way. The next day, Rey returns to class after having fully recovered. The students are informed that Miss Grey has left, and a replacement will be taking over. The door slides open to reveal a woman with bright pink hair, a standard feminist chick. To the shock of the class, and to Rey's personal horror, Caroline, his former comrade and the one person who drives him insane, bounces to the front of the room and cheerfully introduces herself as their new teacher. In the solitude of her private bath, Amelia Rose finds her thoughts consumed by Rey White. The revelation of his true identity as the legendary Iceblade sorcerer is staggering. She contemplates the immense gap between them. Rei is a hero and a living legend, while she is a noble girl trapped by the expectations of her family, with an exceptionally pretty chest. She wonders how she could ever be seen as his equal, and with a blush, finds herself questioning if a man of his stature could ever be interested in her at all. The next day, their new teacher, the chaotically cheerful Caroline, begins her first lesson. She outlines the details of the upcoming Magic Chevalier tournament. Carol explains that because Arnold Academy was the previous year's champion, they are granted a special privilege. They can enter with 6 students this year instead of the usual 5. With her airbags jiggling constantly like a pendulum, Carol continues to elaborate on the gravity of this tournament. While the class buzzes with excitement, Rei is filled with dread. He later goes to meet Principal Abby furiously and pleads with her to remove Carol from the academy. While she refuses this suggestion, Rei even offers to teach the class himself. He tries to convince the principal to fire the annoying replacement teacher immediately, but she clarifies that Carol is extremely friendly and has an impressive set of hard tips on her chest. While Rei continues his rant, the lady in discussion herself appears from behind, playfully teasing him right in front of the principal. A few days later, the academy's qualifying matches begin. Rei stands in the stands with Claris, who desperately wants to jump on his lap. He watches the fights and displays an uncanny ability to predict every outcome, which slightly creeps Claris out. When it's Amelia's turn, she steps into the arena and defeats her opponent in a matter of seconds. However, as she leaves the ring, her expression is not one of triumph, but of deep disappointment. For some reason, Rei understands this feeling and is determined to know what is bothering Amelia. Moments later, he seeks out Rebecca to understand why Amelia is depressed. Rebecca explains the source of Amelia's anxiety. Her greatest rival, a sorcerer from Dam Academy named Ariane Olgren, is also competing. The two were once inseparable friends. Their relationship fractured after Ariane defeated Amelia in a previous duel. This personal history is compounded by the immense pressure from Amelia's father, who has commanded her to win the tournament at all costs. As the qualifiers continue, Amelia dominates every single match like Conor McGregor in his prime, causing her friends to celebrate from the sidelines. This victory secures her spot as a representative for the main tournament. On the other hand, Albert also manages to qualify, securing the second-place spot. Yet, with each victory, the gloom surrounding Amelia only deepens. Even though her friends get wet under their skirts, she does not seem to enjoy her victory at all. Later that evening, Rei confronts Amelia as she is walking back to her dorm by herself. Without wasting a second, Rei tells her that he knows she isn't satisfied with her victories and is doubting her ability to face her rival. With the tournament still a month away, Rei makes her an offer. He will train her personally, using the secret methods from his master's book as the foundation for her growth. Seeing the unwavering conviction in his eyes and a massive bulge in his pants, Amelia immediately accepts his offer. With this decision, she unknowingly signed up for a month of torturous training with the literal Iceblade sorcerer. That night, Amelia had a vivid dream of a memory from her childhood. She remembers the first time she ever met a girl named Ariane. Amelia remembers running away with this little girl to a balcony, sharing food, and becoming the closest of friends. The girls were living their lives like normal kids without a single worry about the real world. They didn't even use TikTok. Suddenly, the dream shifts to a sunset where she and Ariane promise to be friends forever. They hug like little kids because that's what they were. But just then, the memory sours, and Amelia starts replaying the duel she lost. She recalls Ariane extending a hand to help her up, but her younger self, consumed by the pride and pressure of her nobility, simply stood and walked away. This small act of jealousy and pride severed their friendship without a word. In the middle of the night, Amelia awakens with a heavy heart. She understands that she ruined her bond with her closest friend just because of a stupid noble title. The very next day, her new regimen begins. Rei, wearing a strange mask and declaring himself her master, orders her to follow his instructions without question. Her first task is a grueling 20-kilometer run around the school without the aid of any magic. The girl has no other option, so she agrees to this regimen. They start running around the academy compound, but the training only escalates in brutality. Rei forces her through weighted one-armed push-ups, pull-ups, and the Sisyphean task of rolling a massive boulder up a hill, only for it to come crashing back down on her repeatedly. The physical toll is so immense that she begins falling asleep during class, causing her friends to grow deeply concerned. One morning, Amelia tries to skip a session. However, her attempt at escape is ruined when Rei shows up at the girls' dorm and begins banging pots and pans together, loudly announcing it as the Ainsworth-style wake-up call. The commotion draws out Rebecca and Dina, who scold him for the disturbance. While he is distracted, Rei spots Amelia trying to sneak away like Pablo Escobar and immediately runs after her. After she hides in an empty classroom, he uses a unique sonic ability, like a bat using echolocation, to pinpoint her exact location. He drags her out of hiding and forces her to run extra laps as punishment. In the midst of all this, Rei meets Albert on the school compound and asks why he is by himself. Albert tells him how he is suffering from erectile dysfunction and wants to have a hard sausage like before. But Rei tells him that there are pills available these days, making Albert slightly happy. As part of his multifaceted plan, Rei visits the Environmental Research Club. He announces that the assembly of muscle-bound men should form a cheer squad to support Amelia during the tournament. Surprisingly, this idea is embraced with a roaring, thunderous approval. Before leaving, Rei also acquires a bag from them containing a set of female clothes. His plan then enters its final, most audacious stage. Disguised as an incredibly beautiful girl named Lily, Rei makes his way to the rival Diam Academy. To infiltrate the campus undetected, he hides inside a large, empty cardboard box and begins inching his way across the main lawn. However, his strange shuffling cover attracts the attention of a small, teary-eyed girl nearby. As she curiously watches this, the cardboard box shuffles to a stop directly in front of her. Disguised as a beautiful girl, Ray emerges from the cardboard box like David Blaine. He introduces himself to the small, crying girl, who tells him her name is Tiana Olgren. The little girl claims that she lost her sister and can't find her anywhere. The disguised girl named Lily offers to help the kids search for her sister. As they walk through the grounds of Diam Academy, Lily's striking appearance draws the attention and admiration of every student they pass. Some chicks even faint as if they saw some witch in the academy. Tiana soon spots her sister sitting under an elegant Victorian-style structure. They approach the table, and the older sister, Aronyan, thanks Lily for bringing Tiana back to her. However, Aronyan's gaze is sharp and suspicious. She notes that Lily isn't a student at their academy, and demands to know who she really is. Believing his cover is completely blown, Ray drops the female voice and apologizes in his own, shocking Aronyan to her core. He then introduces himself as Ray White from Arnold Academy. Aronyan recognizes the name of the famous ordinary guy who has been making waves around the Japanese Magic Academy circles. Intrigued by the rumors and impressed by his infiltration skills, she challenges him to a friendly duel on the spot, which he gladly accepts. Moments later, they face off in a simulated battle. Ariane immediately demonstrates her incredible speed, launching an insanely quick attack that Ray is barely able to dodge. She pivots and slashes again, but each time their swords clash in the middle. Ariane seems to be a master duelist, and after a brief exchange, she drops low and unleashes a powerful magic-infused slash. Even though Ray manages to defend himself against it, the force of the blow shatters his sword in half, which prematurely ends the duel. It is clear that this Ariane chick is the winner, but she's definitely going to lose in the future. After the fight, she asks if Ray will be participating in the tournament. He replies that he won't be, explaining that his purpose was to help a friend train, a friend Ariane knows very well. His eyes glow with a hint of challenge as he tells her that Amelia has gotten several times stronger. As Ariane listens closely, Ray explains that in their upcoming match, Amelia will be the one to emerge victorious. However, Ariane simply smiles, but her interest is heightened by this news, so she tells Ray that she is looking forward to the battle. By the time Ray leaves Diam Academy, night has fallen. On his way back, he spots a white-haired girl running and crying like PewDiePie after his N-word scandal. She trips on her own weight, but Ray moves like Jagger to catch her before she smashes her face into the ground. The girl introduces herself as Maria Bradley, Rebecca's younger sister. She had been distraught over her decision to attend Orad Academy, fearing the people would be cruel, but Ray's simple act of kindness convinces her that it is the right place for her. She then thanks his magical sausage and runs off, with a positive vibe inside her skirt. The next day, Ray takes his entire group of friends, Amelia, Evie, Elisa, and Clarice, to meet his master. They arrive at Lydia's home, and Elisa is immediately starstruck when she realizes that the renowned sorcerer is her lifelong idol, the famous researcher Dr. Ainsworth. After the boring introductions, Lydia asks to speak with Amelia privately. In a quiet room, she reassures the anxious girl of her own strength. She reveals that Ray has been sending her constant letters, detailing Amelia's progress and expressing his own concern for her. As the girl becomes more comfortable with her, Lydia tells Amelia that to truly change, she needs to learn to trust her friends, and in her case, she must trust Ray, and sometimes even massage his sausage with her mouth. Following the serious conversation, Lydia invites all the kids for a swim in her private pool like a famous music producer. However, the lighthearted mood is quickly derailed when a thoroughly intoxicated Caroline shows up and activates a spell that causes everyone's swimsuits to vanish. Later, as a final test, Ray takes Amelia into the forest for a one-on-one mock battle. This time, the girl is able to hold her own and demonstrates the incredible progress she has made over these weeks. In the end, she even manages to win the spar against Ray, which skyrockets her confidence. The day of the Magic Chevalier tournament arrives. In the arena tunnel, Amelia and Ariane come face to face. Immediately, Ariane offers a hand, but a cold and respectful tension hangs between them, as she states she will be waiting for Amelia in the finals. Amelia's first opponent is a green-haired boy from another school, wielding a clumsy giant sword. As expected, the battle with this chump is over in an instant. She effortlessly dodges his massive slashes, leaps over his head, and as he turns, she activates a small fire magic mine on the ground. It explodes in his face, destroying the rose on his chest and securing her victory. While the crowd roars, Ray slips away to a waiting room where Albert Aliam is preparing for his own match. The once arrogant noble is now a changed man, focused and serious. Seeing him struggle, Ray offers him some genuine words of encouragement, telling him that he believes Albert has what it takes to win. Hearing this, a grateful Albert thanks him and heads to the arena, where his opponent Ariane is waiting for him. The battle begins with a fierce onslaught of blows. To everyone's surprise, Albert manages to keep up with Ariane, attacking and counter-attacking with newfound skill and determination. However, when the girl knocks him down with a magical blow like Diddy's victims, he remembers Ray's words and forces himself back to his feet. Albert rushes in with a swift attack that catches Ariane completely off guard and manages to disarm her. For a moment it seems he might win, but as he moves in to strike the final blow, Ariane catches his blade with her bare hand, shatters it in half, and rams him with a powerful punch to the gut. This officially ends the match, and she secures her victory. Now Albert lies defeated on the arena floor, as the cheers of the crowd feel distant and hollow. Later, as the day's events wind down, Ray walks through a quiet, shadowed corridor. Unbeknownst to him, a mysterious figure watches him from a distance before melting back into the darkness. As Ray walks through the shadowed corridors of the arena, he senses he is being followed. A mysterious figure tracks him from the darkness, and he even notices a purple slime on the ground. But before any confrontation can occur, Lex, the muscular president of the Environmental Research Club, emerges from the shadows. He then takes Ray inside a room that looks like Putin's castle. It happens to be a private meeting room where Principal Abby, Carla, the maid, and Carol are already waiting, flanked by several masked men in uniform. Ray is confused by the unnecessarily secretive gathering, but the purpose is soon made clear. Carla reveals her true identity. She and Lex are siblings and members of the prestigious Hale family, a bloodline that has secretly served as the kingdom's intelligence agency for generations. Lex, in his capacity as the head of student security, has been working with them. While Ray wonders what the frog these girls are talking about, Abby explains the reason for the meeting. It turns out that they have credible intelligence that a dangerous organization known as the Grim Reapers has infiltrated the tournament. For some made-up anime reasons, their primary objective is to abduct or assassinate the daughters of the three great noble houses. Abby warns Ray to remain on high alert and stop massaging his sausage for a few days, and Lex promises to provide support when the time comes. Ray understands the gravity of the situation and vows to protect Amelia from the Grim Reapers. Later that night, while Evie is fast asleep, Ray looks out the window, wondering why he must be the one to protect everyone, as if he's Jesus or something. Meanwhile, in her private room, Amelia is consumed by anxiety. The thought of facing Ariane in the finals fills her with a crippling fear of defeat. Her friends Elisa and Clarice notice her distress and share their concerns with Ray, telling him she has locked herself in her room and refuses to speak to anyone. In the battleground, Rebecca has just won the match, and the crowd goes insane. Ariane, on the other hand, is training with ferocious intensity. In a private training room, she unleashes a furious combination of kicks and punches on a heavy bag. Her feminine power is so immense that her final blow causes the bag to explode. Just then, her stupid-looking father enters and praises her dedication, expressing his hope that she will be just as ruthless against Amelia. With a mask of determination and the airbags of a pickup truck, Ariane promises him that she will win no matter what. That night, Ray decides he must do something about Amelia's deteriorating mental state. He goes to her dorm and stands outside her locked door. He doesn't knock, but instead speaks to her, as his voice travels through the wood. He confesses that when he first met her, he was afraid of getting too close, of letting anyone into his heart, so he kept his distance. But now he wants to understand what she is burying inside herself, what fears she is hiding. Ray tells her he is ready to face her fears with her. Surprisingly, his genuine words of support break through her defenses. The door opens, and Amelia invites this weirdo inside her room. As the two start chatting, she finally lets her facade crumble and confesses her feelings of hopelessness. Amelia explains that her entire life has been a performance, a constant struggle to meet the impossible expectations placed upon her. While she holds onto this stupid little doll, Amelia tells him that no matter how hard she tries, she feels worthless compared to people like him and Ariane. She sees winning this duel as her only chance to become someone, but she is convinced she cannot beat her rival. Then, with tears in her eyes, Amelia asks him what the meaning of her life is, if she can never catch up to her friends and colleagues. Ray patiently listens to her concerns before telling her that life itself has no inherent meaning. He takes her hands and explains that the reason to live is something people create together, through shared happiness and sorrow, through laughing and crying with friends. His wacko quotes borrowed from Instagram finally get through to her. She falls into his arms, crying profusely, and holds his hand all through the night, unwilling to let him go. As Ray sits by her side, he remembers their final training spar in the forest. He recalls how, in a moment of desperation, Amelia had awakened a new power, a butterfly-themed sorcery that had instantly burned the rose on his chest and shattered his mask. That desperate act made him believe Amelia could defeat anyone, and he silently reaffirms his faith in her abilities as a fighter. The day of the final match arrives, and the stadium is jam-packed. Amelia's friends are worried that she might lose the match, but Ray assures them that he drilled a lot of things into her last night. Moments later, Amelia and Ariane face off in the center of the arena. Ariane, confident as ever, tells her old friend to surrender, but Amelia vows to defeat her. With this, the duel finally begins. Ariane immediately unleashes her lightning sorcery, flinging her sword at Amelia. She then teleports behind her, landing a powerful punch that sends Amelia flying across the arena. However, Amelia refuses to give up. Meanwhile, Lex approaches Ray with urgent news. 8 students from noble families have been abducted, and Clarice is among them. Ray immediately tells Lex he will search the underground levels of the arena to find the students and make them sniff his armpits for the trouble they're causing him. Back in the ring, Aran continues her attacks. As Amelia struggles, Ray's voice echoes in her dumb mind, telling her that he believes in her. At the same time, Ray finds the abducted students underground, all unconscious. As he wakes Clarice, an interference barrier suddenly springs up around them, trapping them. They are now surrounded by the infamous Grim Reapers. However, being the warrior he is, Ray takes responsibility and starts fighting these monsters. The fight in the arena intensifies. Ariane unleashes her ultimate sorcery as her power swells to an incredible level. Amelia is overwhelmed by this, but Ariane moves like a flash of lightning, knocking Amelia down again and again. Every bone in her body aches, and she feels her consciousness begin to fade. But just as despair sets in, the faces of her friends flash before her eyes. From the entrance of the arena, she hears Ray's annoying voice screaming her name, urging her to get her squishy bottoms up. Lifting her head, something inside her awakens. A red sparkle gleams in her eyes, and she lets out a magical spell. Instantly, a powerful beam of pink, butterfly-filled energy erupts around her, a protective aura that fills the entire stadium. Ariane stops her attack, her face a mask of utter shock at the sight of this unknown, overwhelming power. Amelia stands enveloped in a shimmering aura of pink energy, filled with some magical butterflies. She has become literally untouchable. From the announcer's booth, Carol identifies the power as concept interference, an incredibly rare magic originating from the butterfly effect of chaos theory. She explains that it allows Amelia to manipulate causality, overriding Ariane's actions just before they happen. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Ariane refuses to believe that her friend is stronger than her. She continues her now futile attacks to harm Amelia. but her punches and kicks are like freedom in America. Just then, Amelia sends a single butterfly toward her, and a split second later, an explosion throws Ariane to the ground. However, the strain of using her new power is taking its toll on Amelia. Blood begins to trickle from her nose, a clear sign her engram is overworked and she is close to overheating. Yet she refuses to back down. Iran, equally determined, rises to her feet, and they charge at each other. The girls trade blows like angry cats, but Irani manages to land a solid kick. They headbutt each other, both staggering from the impact. While everybody in the stadium is on their feet, the girls clash like Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. With their last reserves of strength, they rush forward for one final desperate clash, which results in a peaceful white light. Moments later, Ariane regains consciousness to find her head resting on Amelia's lap. The duel is over. She has lost the match. Despite the defeat, she compliments her friend on how strong she has become. Hearing this, Amelia cries with relief and attributes her victory to her friends who believed in her. But she admits that Ariane was the true reason she strove to be better. Ariane confesses that her own harsh drive was an attempt to be a worthy role model for Amelia. With the truth finally out, the two girls tearfully reconcile, hugging each other as they did when they were children. With this heartfelt reunion, Ariane raises Amelia's hand in victory, and the announcer declares her the champion of the rookie bracket. The entire arena erupts in cheers for both valiant fighters, and even Ariane's father hesitantly claps from his booth. In the hallway, their fathers meet. Amelia's perpetually grumpy father mutters that she could have done better, but Ariane's father tells him to be happy for once. Later, Ray visits Amelia in the infirmary, where she is all twisted up. She tells him that while his training was brutal, she's glad it wasn't a waste of her time. Remembering the night he spent in her room, Amelia becomes flushed. She asks if he knew about her hidden power all along, but Ray explains he only sensed her tremendous butterfly energy, not the specifics of it. Then Ray congratulates her for her victory, telling her that while talent is inherited, her victory was the result of her own hard work. The two shake hands like it's a business meeting, making it awkward for each other. Later, Amelia takes a deep breath as she is finally happy with her life. She then walks around with her friends in the academy compound, confident in her ability to be their friend. The next day, the stadium is packed for the grand finale. Rebecca Bradley and the mysterious warrior named Lucas Forrest are going head-to-head against each other. For some reason, Ray senses that something fishy is going on, as there are many strange characters inside the arena. As the match begins, Lucas takes a single step and activates the 8 secret technique, plunging the arena into darkness. Before anyone can react, the light returns to reveal that Rebecca's rose has been shattered. The fight is over in less than 2 seconds, causing everyone in the stadium to gasp in shock. As Lucas puts his sword inside the holster, he is officially the champion of the tournament. As he walks through the tunnel, he passes Ray and addresses him as the Ice Blade Sorcerer. Ray, in turn, acknowledges him as the new Peerless Blade Sorcerer, a title that was also passed down like his. Ray asks why he competed in a student tournament, and Lucas reveals it was a demonstration for Ray's benefit. He then issues a challenge. They will fight in 1 year's time to prove who is truly the strongest. Meanwhile, down in the basement, Abby, Carol, and Lydia investigate the captured Grim Reapers. They find the monsters bound like sacks of potatoes, terrified of being boiled alive. When Carol sees them, she uses her spellbinding sorcery to hypnotize them. But when this annoying girl commands them to reveal their secrets, their heads explode, revealing that someone installed a magical failsafe. Carol is slightly blown away by the explosion, while Abby gets annoyed that they lost their only lead. With the tournament over, Abby finally arrives at the arena and addresses the crowd. She tells her students that the battles fought in this arena were extremely stupid and that they should never overestimate themselves. With this, the school begins preparations for the cultural festival. During a class meeting, Ray suggests they run a maid cafe. The idea is met with immediate resistance from the nobles, who find the idea degrading. In truth, the idea was Amelia's. She had pitched it to Ray, romantically describing maids as the epitome of grace and loyalty while mentioning their short skirts. The thought of Carla in her uniform had instantly sold Ray on the plan. Now he gives a passionate speech about how revolutionary it would be for them to embrace the role. To his surprise, his argument is unexpectedly bolstered when Carol appears, modeling a cute maid outfit. Seeing how good she looks, all the boys in the class try their best to control the growth of their sausages, and with collective approval, the plan is considered legitimate. As Ray and Amelia celebrate their success in the hallway, Dina approaches them with shocking news. She tells them that Rebecca has just gotten engaged. Ray looks outside the window and sees Rebecca walking arm in arm with a man he doesn't recognize. The story behind Rebecca's sudden engagement begins in a dimly lit room, where her father signs a blood contract with a man named Evan Bernstein. Since this is a magical anime, the deal was sealed with a magical sigil. Evan offers a hollow reassurance that his daughter will be safe. Elsewhere, a grotesque pink-haired giant known as Glutton is seen draining the life force of a defeated mage. As he discards the lifeless body, a mysterious masked sorcerer appears, looking like Darth Vader in his teens. The sorcerer mocks Glutton for his crude methods before using a magical hand to scavenge the brain of the dead mage. He then reveals his grand plan, to acquire his vessel in order to ascend to the top of his organization, eugenics. He then explains with chilling detail that the vessel he is looking for is Rebecca Bradley. The next morning at the academy, Ray approaches Rebecca and politely congratulates her on her engagement. She seems distant and unhappy, but tries to hide her sadness. While Ray inquires about her attendance, Rebecca assures him that she will continue attending school until she graduates. Like creeps, the two shake hands instead of jumping on each other's laps. Meanwhile, preparations for the maid cafe are in full swing. Amelia is playfully teasing a reluctant Elisa, trying to convince her to wear the maid dress. Elisa feels it's too revealing, and she asks Ray for help. However, her pleas for help are useless since the stud joins Amelia in this matter. He then tries to convince the blue-haired girl of how great she would look as a pixie maid. On the other hand, the boys in the class, led by a newly motivated Albert, are working hard to decorate the hall. Their energy is fueled solely by the prospect of seeing the girls in their cute maid outfits, and potentially being able to see the tip of their watermelons. Later, Ray goes to the gardening club room and finds that the other members are all absent. Rebecca explains they have quit in protest of her engagement. It turns out that Evan, her new fiancé, was previously engaged to another member of the club, and the other girls see Rebecca as a betrayer. Realizing the extra workload now falls on her and Dina, Ray offers to help them. As he leaves, Dina pulls him aside like a serial offender. She confides that the whole situation feels extremely strange. This Rebecca chick is clearly hiding something, and the fact that Evan is not from one of the top 3 noble houses makes the politically motivated engagement highly suspicious. As they chat, Dina wonders if Rebecca is in danger and asks Ray to watch over her. Without hesitation, this simp agrees to keep an eye on this forever depressed girl. That night, Ray visits Lydia to explain the entire Rebecca is sad situation. She agrees that the engagement is deeply suspicious, especially since Rebecca is not yet of age. She then instructs Carla to begin a thorough investigation into the Bernstein household. Before Ray leaves the room, Lydia asks about his class's festival plans. When he tells her about the maid cafe, Lydia is dismissive, channeling Albert's earlier sentiment. Ray tells her that no man could deny a maid's beauty. When Lydia asks if he is one of them, he admits he is, revealing his enthusiasm was sparked by imagining Carla's juggernauts in her uniform. This crushes Lydia, who glares daggers at her maid. When she asks what he would think of her in a maid's dress, Ray tells her she'll look like Hillary Clinton. This statement results in him being enclosed and threatening ice spikes until he offers a genuine apology. In the girls' dormitory, Rebecca is in the shower when she is struck by a vivid vision. She sees a young Ray on a war-torn battlefield, desperately trying and failing to revive his fallen comrades with healing magic. But suddenly, Rebecca is snapped out of his delusion and finds herself in an unnecessarily large shower. The vision is so intense that it causes her eye to bleed. Just then, her sister Maria finds her in this state, and Rebecca quickly covers up the incident, claiming it was just a nosebleed. She pretends to be happy about her engagement, but as soon as she is alone in her room, she breaks down and weeps. Her mind flashes back to memories of protecting a young Maria from bullies, contrasted with the recent memory of angrily shoving her sister away when she asked about the engagement. In a flashback, it is revealed that Rebecca is 8 years older than Maria, and she was like a mother to the little kid. However, their parents always told Maria to become more like Rebecca, making the little kid incredibly sad. On the other hand, the day of the cultural festival arrives. The girls look stunning in their maid outfits. Ray compliments them all, causing the girls to drip gravy almost immediately. However, when he continues to praise them for their looks, Amelia starts becoming playfully possessive with him. Clarice also appears, dressed as a ghost for her class's haunted house. Meanwhile, the principal is talking to the annoying Carol about how Ray is doing in his class. Realizing that the kid is doing pretty good, Principal Abby lets out a gentle smile. Later in the day, Ray offers to escort Rebecca home. They talk about some pretty mundane stuff like the school's cultural festival, the price of eggs, and so on. Rebecca seems to be enjoying his company, but just then, Evan appears in front of them and takes over. By this short interaction, it is clear that his presence is clearly dampening Rebecca's mood. Just after they leave, Lex shows up and summons Ray to another urgent meeting. In the secret room, Carla reveals the results of her investigation. Evan's household is a creepy abandoned mansion with no signs of human life. He has been attending political meetings, but it's all a public facade. They conclude that Evan is almost certainly a member of eugenics and is after Rebecca's unique sorcerer's eyes. At that very moment, in another location, the masked sorcerer is meeting with Glutton. He declares that Rebecca will soon be reawakened as Cruz, which will lead to the opening of the gates to a place called Akasha. He then removes his mask, revealing his true face. He is Evan Bernstein. Inside the mansion, Evan corners Rebecca, reminding her that he signed a contract with his father to trade her eyes in exchange for a ticket to a Taylor Swift concert.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
He then whispers a threat against Maria, and as Rebecca begins to cry, the girl feels utterly helpless in her situation, and she sheds tears of literal blood from her eyes. In her dream, Rebecca is trapped in a waking nightmare. Her consciousness is thrown back into the past, onto a barren, war-torn battlefield. She is an unseen observer, watching a young Ray kneel over the lifeless body of his adoptive father, Howard. The boy desperately channels his healing magic, trying to revive him, but his efforts are futile. A younger Lydia approaches and tells him it's no use, that the mission is over. But when the boy refuses to accept reality, she slaps the crying child like Chris Rock. She forces Ray to confront the truth that Howard is dead before leading him away from the battlefield. The vision is so intense and real that Rebecca is left reeling. Back in the present, at school, the memory flashes across her mind, and she wonders if the boy in her vision was truly Ray. The next day at school, Maria finds Ray. She introduces herself, and after he compliments her, she tearfully asks for his help. Maria explains that she is worried about her older sister, but Rebecca has refused to open up to anyone. Ray draws her in for a comforting hug and promises he will do everything in his power to protect Rebecca. Unbeknownst to them, Rebecca watches this exchange from a distance, while her heart aches at the sight of her sister being comforted by her dream sausage, Ray. That night, she tosses and turns in her bed, as her sleep is plagued by the recurring vision of the battlefield. That night, Rebecca is unable to sleep, as the memory of the battlefield and the image of Maria in Ray's arms keeps replaying in her mind. Meanwhile, Ray is in his dorm room, trying to distract himself by reading a romantic novel he picked up from the library, even attempting to explain the sad love story to a thoroughly uninterested Evie. Later, in his own dreams, Ray is back at Howard's burial. He sees Rebecca there, and she asks him directly who he really is. But before he can answer, a crack of thunder drowns out his voice, and he jolts awake like a marine. As he sits up, Ray finds blood streaking down from his eyes, which seems to be a physical manifestation of a shared dreamlike connection with Rebecca. The next morning, he bumps into Rebecca during his morning jog. The encounter is awkward. He tries to make small talk about the festival, but the girl is clearly preoccupied. She starts to ask him if he fought in the Far East War, but stops herself before finishing the question. On the first day of the cultural festival, their maid cafe is a massive success. Amelia serves Ariane and her sister Tiana, who have come to visit. But Ariane is only interested in seeing Ray. He soon makes his grand entrance, disguised once more as the stunningly beautiful Lily, immediately becoming the center of attention. Outside, Carol laments that she is stuck on guard duty, missing out on all the fun. Back inside, Ray, as Lily, serves Maria, who is on the verge of losing her mind at his beauty. Even Amelia admits he is terrifyingly effective as a girl. Later, Ray sheds his disguise and spends the rest of the day with Rebecca, walking through the festival grounds like a couple. They enjoy the various attractions, and even when Clarice tries to spook them at the haunted mansion, their shared fun is uninterrupted. As the sun begins to set, Rebecca brings up the fireworks show happening the next night, but she cuts herself off, unable to bring herself to invite him, and walks back to her room. As Maria is leaving the school, a mysterious white-haired woman appears before her, delivering a cryptic and chilling warning. Rebecca will soon be unalived. At the same time, Abby reveals the same grim news to Ray and the intelligence unit. However, Lydia insists that they can still rewrite her future, but their meeting is interrupted by the arrival of Rebecca's father. He confesses that his actions have placed his daughter's life in grave danger and begs Ray to save her. Classic demonstration of fatherless behavior. Meanwhile, in a hidden forest clearing, the sorcerer Evan and the giant Glutton are finalizing their plans. Evan declares that crows will soon be awakened, while Glutton expresses his singular desire to consume Ray's powerful soul. The next day at the festival, Rebecca finds Ray. She tells him she has been waiting to sniff his sausage and makes a final desperate plea. She asks him to watch over her sister. Believing she is doomed to disappear forever, she entrusts Maria's safety to him. Understanding the gravity of her words, Ray formulates a plan. He disguises himself as Lily again and attempts to distract Maria, but she is too worried about her sister to be swayed and asks for his help in finding her. Meanwhile, Rebecca walks through a deserted alleyway. Just then, Evan appears before her, and with a flash of magic, they both teleport away. Ray, sensing this, immediately runs from the hall, leaving his friends confused. On a rooftop, Evan casts a large barrier over a secluded area, telling Rebecca he is now ready to take her eyes. At that moment, Ray is fighting his way through an army of monsters summoned by Evan's followers, deliberately using only his inside code to conserve his energy. As the battle rages, Ray's friends arrive. Amelia's butterfly effect dispels a fireball aimed at him, and she tells him they came to support him. The group works in perfect sync. Evie sends sorcerers flying. Al sets them ablaze, Elisa unleashes a tornado, and Clarice obliterates them with lightning. The two lead monsters, Evan's chief subordinates, realize they are outmatched and escape up the mountain to assist their master. Al tells Ray to go after Rebecca, and Ray finally pulls off his wig, dropping the Lily disguise. As he runs, he remembers the full confession from Rebecca's father. The family name Bradley was a curse cast upon their bloodline due to the massive bloodshed surrounding the original Cruz. He had explained that Rebecca was born as a vessel for this ancient entity, and if Cruz fully takes over her body, she will die. The after effects of her birth as a vessel were so powerful that they caused her younger sister, Maria, to be born as an albino, suggesting that she too might be a potential vessel. At this point, Ray realizes the stakes are much higher than he ever imagined. Inside a barrier on the far side of the forest, Rebecca is held captive by Evan Bernstein and his followers. The giant Glutton monstrously descends from the sky, as the poor Rebecca can only watch in despair. At that moment, Evan turns his focus to a mysterious masked sorcerer among his ranks. However, the figure's disguise disintegrates, revealing a face identical to Evan's. This doppelganger then transforms, shedding the male form to reveal the true identity of the white-haired woman, Lise. The real Evan, enraged at her infiltration and deception, immediately restrains her with dark sorcery, screaming that he will take her life for interfering with his plans to reach Akasha, using Rebecca as a vessel. But before he can strike, Lise disperses his flames and teleports Rebecca to a safer location within the barrier. She then pushes Evan into a portal, sending him to an unknown dimension. At that moment, Ray arrives like a proper G-glutton, now free from the restraint, charges at him, eager to devour his engram. However, Lise creates a temporary glass-like seal and manages to stop the giant. She introduces herself to Ray as the sorcerer of fabrication, explaining that Lydia and the others are aware of her involvement. She states that her master plan is to force Rebecca to overheat, and it is Ray's duty to then seal the rampaging power with his Chronos lock, because his soul is the only one that resonates with hers. According to him, this resonance is the only cause of their shared dreams, and the reason his eyes bled a few nights ago. On the other hand, Glutton shatters the seal and renews his attack. Immediately, Ray summons an ice sword, but the monster's brute strength is so immense that he breaks it to pieces with a single blow. Meanwhile, Lise enters the portal to deal with Evan. Inside the other dimension, Evan, consumed by hatred, injects himself with the Dark Triad system and transforms himself into a giant monster. Despite this, Lise remains unfazed and tells him that his hate cannot make him stronger than her. She calmly summons an apotheosis, a powerful spell that causes his engram to self-destruct, engulfing his monster form in flames. As he collapses from the devastating impact, he calls her the strongest sorcerer. However, she corrects him, stating that if there is a single sorcerer who could rule the world, it would be the Iceblade sorcerer. Meanwhile, in the forest below, Ray's friends have grown exhausted from fighting the endless waves of monsters. Just as they think they are finished, the defeated creatures begin to reawaken as more powerful demons. As the demons launch a barrage of energy blasts, a volley of icicle blades descends from the sky, destroying them in a matter of seconds. Lydia, Abby, Carol, and Carla have also arrived. Carla leads the charge with a whirlwind of blades, obliterating the demons before her. Abby extends her own blades into fiery chains, unleashing dragons of fire that consume 1,000 demons at once. On the other hand, Carol casts a love spell, trapping the remaining monsters before obliterating them with a sonic blast. To erase them completely, Lydia summons countless icicle blades and merges them into one colossal sword, annihilating the rest of the demonic army. Back on the mountain, Ray is still struggling against Glutton. The giant, tired of toying with him, activates his ultimate body enhancement spell and transforms into his most powerful state. With this modification, he sends Ray crashing to the ground with a single punch. Seeing this, Maria, who has arrived on the scene, screams at Rebecca, blaming her for everything. Glutton seizes Ray by the throat and shoves him into a wall, preparing to devour his engram. But Ray activates deceleration. He summons a new sword and stabs Glutton's foot, which instantly begins to freeze. He stabs his hand to create space, and as Glutton swings for a final blow, his arm freezes solid. Realizing Ray's blade didn't break this time, Glutton watches in horror as Ray activates a spell called Pandora. The ice spreads rapidly across the giant's entire body until he is completely frozen like a turkey in a supermarket. Having expended all his energy, Ray falls to his knees and reactivates the Chronos lock just before passing out. On the other hand, Maria continues to berate Rebecca, accusing her of being selfish and causing this chaos. Rebecca finally snaps. She tells Maria to shut her mouth, screaming that she was ready to sacrifice her entire life for her. The sisters get into a physical altercation, with Rebecca slapping Maria while telling her that, despite being a rebellious brat, she has always loved her as her precious little sister. The intense emotional outburst causes Rebecca's sorcerer's eyes to activate, and her power begins to overheat and spiral out of control. Simultaneously, Lise materializes with Evan's defeated body and tells the recovering Ray that he must now save Rebecca. Amelia and the others arrive, but Lydia warns them to stay back. Then Ray penetrates Rebecca's chaotic energy barrier. He appears before her, telling her that he respects her bravery and her love for her sister. He then leans in and gently kisses her, activating the Chronos lock and sealing her rampaging power. Later that night, Rebecca is staring at the sky, fully recovered from the battle wounds. Amelia appears and playfully warns her to stay away from her man. However, Rebecca counters, stating that since their souls are now bound, they share something special, and she is mature enough to handle Ray having multiple women. Unwilling to surrender, Amelia accepts the challenge. Just then, Clarice and Elisa appear, declaring that it's unfair for them to be left out. Rebecca, with a newfound confidence, says she has the capacity to accept them all into the fold. As they all stand together, Ray appears, and the night sky erupts in a brilliant fireworks display. The following day, Ray visits Howard's grave. He reflects on his journey, admitting that after Howard's death, he felt lost. But now, at Aradal Academy, he has found a new world, a normal world, where he is surrounded by people he cares for, and who care for him in return. He has finally found his friends, and with them, a place to call home. If you want us to cover Season 2 of this anime, comment Iceblade below. Until then, subscribe, like, and share this video with all your friends.